So the first questions go to James. He is an A&R person. He's co-chair of this company, this Hard Rock Records company, is part of the larger Hard Rock. And I know there's a lot of people here that would like to maybe get their music out there. So how do you take submissions, and are you going to take any today, or are you gonna just drive people to a certain?
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Matt. Hi, everybody. How's it going? A lot of enthusiasm, you guys. So I have some cards up here. It has our physical office address. I mean, it'd be best if you guys could just mail it to me and say, hey, Tony, Full Sail, whatever. It has my number, email on there. You could follow up with me. Not that I don't want to interface with everybody and grab stuff, but if people have a bunch of stuff, I only have 2 arms and I drive a Prius, so it'd be difficult to fit everything in there, and it would be anti the environment as well. So, cool.
Good answer. Prius C, the smaller one?
I have no idea. I just wanted to look like a cool hipster. I had the beard going. I thought this will get me more girls, and it has not worked out at all.
By next year, it's Tesla.
I'm going 2016, I think, yeah.
Tesla Model S is what the execs have now. Donna Dowless is, I will tell you, if you live in the Central Florida area, Donna Dowless is absolutely everywhere. She has been in Orlando since, if I remember correctly, 1987 is what you mentioned, and has been a critical part of the art scene in Central Florida. However, her resume is much larger than that. XOXO Media Group will probably be less recognizable to you than Hard Rock Records. So I think the first question would be, Donna, just lay out what you're doing. How are you interfacing with artists and musicians?
Thank you. My whole life experience from a very early age has been involved in the entertainment, live, sports, venue, entertainment business. The first little group that I worked with is probably a group that you've heard a lot about lately because they're just celebrating their 50th anniversary of coming to the United States, is the Beatles. So I grew from that point right on up through all of the major entertainment acts. Some are living and some are dead. And it's always been a business that fascinated me and took me places I never thought I would go before. And does having a big corporation behind you create, is good for your creative project? Yes. And we've seen that from the very beginning to today. It's ever changing, it's ongoing. You've seen the big push for sponsors. You've seen the big things through the MTV era. You've seen what's happened with drive, persistence, encouragement, education, how you take these bands. In the early days of Bill Graham, who was the founder of Woodstock and started Fillmore East and Fillmore West to grow bands. The business of growing entertainment has always been the #1 concern in the industry. How do we keep growing the new business? And sponsors are wanting more than just their name slapped on things. So these independent corporations that are getting behind music, film, the arts, it's just all about doing it. And hopefully, as we listen to the questions coming from you today, we'll carry that on. And lastly, I'm an independent consultant now. Ticketmaster is my client. I was senior vice president of Ticketmaster for 19 years, so I've been on all sides of the fence with it. So this is a great panel to be part of and hopefully give you lots of information on what's going on.
Okay. There's a big change, and I think it's a generational change, and I'd kind of like to address this a little bit, and Donna mentioned it a little bit, corporations being involved with artists. There was a pretty big period of time that music in corporations was a dicey proposition depending on the group. And I think we're in a generational position now where the attitudes are very different about it. And you'd be surprised to see who, and you'll be surprised if you look at the Hard Rock Records roster, one of the bands on the roster, who aren't exactly a corporate act on first flush. But the thing now about music is that music is not a standalone event, meaning that I will celebrate my 52nd birthday in a couple of months. And as a young person listening to music, you'd go buy a record, you'd go home, you'd break the plastic off of it, you would look at the liner notes, you'd drop the needle on the record, and it was the singular listening experience. That was the only thing you did. is you're listening to music. It was a thing. You're listening to music. And now music is just incorporated. It's just incorporated in all aspects of lifestyle. And I think that you're going to find out from Hard Rock Records that that's part of what they're doing. And maybe talk a little bit about maybe the gold standard for these little, boutique is the wrong word, but these little labels that are popping up, but doing big promotional work. And Red Bull Records is probably the gold standard right now. And I think that, I don't know how much you've studied what Red Bull Records has done.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. I mean, and I'm going to go, not sidetrack, but like just a show of hands, like how many people love music in the room? Doesn't matter if it's Frank Ocean, Frank Sinatra, Frankie Goes to Hollywood. Everybody likes music, right? And it's kind of just like the common denominator. Any room you go into, somebody's going to be a Republican, somebody's going to be Democrat, somebody had this socioeconomic background, somebody had that one, you like that car, this car. Everybody loves music. You might not like the same kind of music. So when hard rock started, way back in the 70s, there's two kind of guiding principles. Eric Clapton literally ate at the London Hard Rock and said, I want this seat, here's a guitar, put it on the wall. Pete Townsend got wind of that, sent his in, and that's how the memorabilia collection started, really organic. The philanthropy, started with, the two founders going out and saying, hey, we want to give back to the community. The shirt that everybody sees, it started because they sponsored a local soccer team, and then people said, how do we buy that shirt? So kind of the whole foundation of hard rock was very organic. And when we started thinking about people, and I was talking to Matt in the green room, they're 14, 15 to, even getting close to my age. How do we connect with them, as a brand? Because music is kind of, it's in our DNA, literally. It hangs on our walls, and it's not, just a shtick. It was a literal part of the foundation, the beginnings of hard rock. So we just decided to get back to the beginnings, back to the basics, and saying, how do we take a band that maybe, or an artist or an act, that would not have the ability to go out there on their own and support them and say, hey, we're going to pick up by your bootstraps, we're going to offer you X, Y, and Z, and we want nothing in return, because it's not a profit foundation for us. It's really saying we've gotten a lot from artists, we've gotten a lot from fans of artists, we want to give back. And I've done a few interviews with it, and when we started up, and people say to me, well, what's the metric of success, Because really, you gave a nice flowery introduction. I'm an A&R guy, but I'm probably the worst A&R guy because I don't bring any money back for our company. So if, you, sir, if you're an amazing artist and you sold 10 albums, right, nobody's going to fire me. If you sold 10 million albums, nobody's going to go, James, you're so good at your job, we're making you the president of everything in the world. So for me, early on, I set the goals, and we set the goals of, are we connecting with people? Because that's what it's about. Music's kind of a great connector for everybody. And my favorite band is this band from Scotland, Frightened Rabbit. When I see Frightened Rabbit, or I listen to Frightened Rabbit, probably nobody, maybe a couple people know who they are. It's like this 2 seconds I can just kind of escape, and I'm lost in Frightened Rabbit. And I'm at their show, and it's amazing. I listen to their music. That's all we want. We want, we have 4 bands right now. We want them to, somebody to have that connection with them and be like, oh man, that was awesome. Like, you inspired me to do something else. Or, the bands, hopefully they go on, and it would make me look a lot better on my resume if, our first band, Roscoe Bandana, became Lady Antebellum, right? But if they don't, and they get kind of that life experience about it, and they're brand advocates for hard rock in a natural, organic way, then it's really a huge success for us. So, that's kind of how we got into it. And Red Bull definitely set the gold standard. And I think, Sail, the song Sail, really took them to new heights. And it did open a lot of eyes, I think, for different brands to get involved. But, there's also Mountain Dew, there's Converse, there's brands that are trying to get into that realm that maybe it's centric for them as well.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Red Bull Records have 9 acts, a total of 9 acts. That does not make them a standard record label. Hard Rock Records, you currently have 3, and I know that'll expand a bit. But the idea, I think, for AWOL Nation was, yeah, and these guys will be great brand advocates, and maybe we can break them. But anybody track the sales on those that AWOL Nation album, and then the sales single? It's 90s numbers. It is numbers that you don't see in sales anymore because of streaming and the fact that, you want to hear a song, you go right to YouTube, and you just go right over to YouTube. And you know, and they just basically, I think maybe they use the same metric that you're thinking about. It's just find an exuberant band.
Yeah, and I mean, for Red Bulls, or for AWOL Nation specifically, you know, that gentleman was in a band, was in a major label band called Under the Influence of Giants. So, I mean, they knew, he kind of knew the game, and he was aware of what he was getting into, and I think, you know, Red Bull offered him maybe an alternative to what he was used to from the major label experience. Hard Rock Records differs just in the extent that we shy away from people that have major label or have had major label, or, you know, if Atlantic was competing for an artist with us, Atlantic should take them, because our goal is it's a one-year deal. And after the year, we want them to go sign with Universal, or sign with Atlantic, or sign with ATO, or sign with Glassnote, because that's somebody who's going to be able to house them for the long term. But it's really just about giving them an opportunity for us. And, you know, it's a long-term equity play for us, because if a band connects with you, right, sir, in the front, and you love them, and maybe you dig into the history of them, maybe you have a good opinion, bad opinion, or no opinion of hard rock. But maybe, you know, if you hear what we're doing, all of a sudden your opinion might slightly change, and we're an option for you, whether it's hotel, you know, you're eating, you're going to casino, you know, it's like, oh, all right, they're actually doing something cool. They're not, you know, this isn't just a shtick, this isn't just an act, this is a genuine thing.
If I could just carry on with that just a little bit, and as you all have seen, probably ever since that you've been involved with music, or liking music, or going to concerts, or being involved, you've always seen something connected to the event. There's been some type of product connected to the event. Well, in today's world, people want more than that productivity. And as you were saying, that they want this organic feel of growing their brand in different ways besides of just multi-level marketing, or you know, electronic marketing, or social media. There's all these different things that are now coming into it. But in the bigger plan of putting things together and watching things grow organically, you're going to see more and more of that. I think we're going to see more people coming out with this. You know, years ago, it was the companies, and they still do it, the AEGs of the world and the Live Nations of the world. Since they had venues, they needed product. So then they started getting their own artists. And just like the agents and the record companies, they wanted to be associated with bigger opportunity. So without just saying, come see me, come see me. So they put these packages together that went into independent filming, independent record promoting, and with all of the advantages of electronic media today, anybody can do it. I mean, it's just a natural progression. So you guys can rise up and carry on with it.
So this would be a question for both Donna and James. Can you see a potential pitfall for a group? I think we probably need to address this, that you are so widely sort of broadcast when you get into one of these wide deals that Donna mentioned. Is there a downside? Is there, does your sort of popularity sine wave go up too fast and down too fast, and can it come back up again? And have you seen any of this?
Well, gosh, I'm trying to think of an example of it. Yes, I think you can oversaturate, and but sometimes it'll keep going. I mean, it's that magic tip over that in a well-planned out program of coming together with all the elements that make for a good deal for everybody. I think it has to be a good deal for everybody, but if it doesn't connect with the fan, you got nothing. You can sit in these boardrooms and they can come up with all these entertaining, interesting ideas. But if you don't have the right product, you don't have the right artist, you don't have the right connectivity to where you're trying to go with it, and then if the fan doesn't get onto it, yeah, I think it's a gamble. It's all a gamble, but the whole industry has been a gamble forever. And some days you really win the big one, and other days you don't. But I think we're going to keep trying and keep moving forward with it, because that's just the way we are.
And I mean, to add on to that, I think it's just the ebb and flow of businesses. I mean, if I were to ask you guys today who is more current and relevant, Microsoft or Apple, I bet you a majority would say Apple, right? If you asked that same question in 1995, everybody would say Microsoft. And you know, it's not that their business strategies were different, it was just kind of the innovation and the products they were delivering. So, you know, I think when you get into the brands and oversaturation, I mean, that's definitely there. I mean, the thing that popped in my mind right when you asked the question was, I think it was Spider-Man or Spider-Man 2. Major League Baseball took all the bases, and I don't know if I'm dating myself. Anybody actually see Spider-Man 2 in the theater? Great movie, by the way. Tobey Maguire, he got snubbed at the Oscars. But all the bases, right, they put webs on them, and it says Spider-Man 2. And they did them for the opening weekend. I think it came out Memorial Day or 4th of July. And fans just revolted. And they're just like, what is this? Spider-Man 2, you're taking this pure thing, and it's just, like, we don't care about Spider-Man 2. And, like, the first weekend numbers actually took a dip from Spider-Man 1 to Spider-Man 2, which was, you know, I mean, overall, the gross product, it made more money than Spider-Man 1. But typically, when you have a big franchise like that, 2 comes out, everybody goes. It's a known quantity. You know Tobey Maguire, you know Kirsten Dunst, you know the whole storyline, great. But because they just had a little bit of a visceral reaction, like you're entrenching on something that's pure to us. Like baseball, the Yankees don't want to have a giant mobile sign, or and the Mets don't need a giant Hard Rock sign. So that, you know, that is kind of the balancing act, and I think the tipping point. And as Donna said, you don't know until you try. You know, I think you find that, you know, there's a lot of successes found in failure.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that we brought up before we came up here was talking about how ever-changing the combinations, I guess, the chemistry of promotion goes. And Donna actually wanted to know from you folks, like, what are your ideas? What are things that maybe you're working on as a project here? If you're willing to give your idea away. But you know, it is ever changing, and Donna had mentioned boardrooms and people sitting. You know, people who sit in boardrooms all day and take meetings all day are not talking to people all day outside of boardrooms, and that is, boy, that's a sort of a critical failure that you can make. This goes back to the 1980s when video. This is when you rented video. It was actually VHS tapes. When you rented VHS tapes in the old days, the MGM UA company, the person who is the president of the video rental division went out and worked on Friday nights in he was a clerk in a local video store. And that was his way to get around just, being too many stories off the ground up in a tower and not keeping your feet on the ground. So and this is something that you go out there, you're hungry, you develop something, you develop a company, you develop management. But what are some ways that you can not lose touch?
Well, showing up, going out, listening, talking to the young people, talking to people who've been in the industry. I think it's a travesty sometimes we don't honor the history of the industry, because there's so much knowledge and information there that we can call and take off to apply to the new methodology and the new technology. But you always have to have a great product. And what is it? And what's the buzz? What are people talking about? You've got to have someone on social media all the time, watching on YouTube and seeing what's coming on there, listening to what people are talking about on television, watching late night television shows and see what Fallon is going to do. You're seeing bands being promoted. And so it's taking all of these pieces of the pie, but you've got to go out and you have to listen. I have been in so many discussions about how to promote bands and what kind of sponsors to get for the bands and corporations, and listening to corporations that want to produce music festivals and then grow the bands. They want to produce their own festival, which lots of people do. I mean, you take the example of Coachella or Bonnaroo or some of these, the Warped Tour, these bands weren't out there so much anymore, so they wanted a new experience for the fan. But you have got to go mix and mingle with them. I mean, I show up at events sometimes and people look at me like, what in the world are you doing here? Well, what I'm doing there is feeling it. I want to feel it, and I tell this to a lot of corporate executives. You got to feel it from the curb, in the venue, to the boardroom. And if you're not going out and not feeling it, talk to your kids, talk to your, talk to people who are doing these things. Like you talk about bands that are obscure, but that could be the next really big one that's going to hit because you listen to it. So listening, I think, is a really, really big thing, and not being so full of your own ego that you can't accept other opinions. You got to be able to go for it and ask those questions. That's just been my history and experience in the industry all these years.
Yeah, just to add on to that, I mean, personally for my job, I mean, I'll start the day in addition to going to ESPN to see hopefully the Magic lost to increase their draft chances in the lottery, and checking like whatever fantasy sport I'm doing that day. I will look at Hype Machine, I'll go to Brooklyn Vegan, I'll go to Stereo Gum, I'll go to Pitchfork, and I'll just read about what other people are saying. And then on the local level, I go to a lot of shows. I'm like the old creepy guy leering in the back of the like the social or back booth or whatever. But I like to go, and I mean, like there's a band that has been around for 2 years from Gainesville, and they have no idea who I am. I'm not trying to plug them, but this is band Dikembe, taken off of Dikembe Mutombo's name. And I saw them at back booth last month, and I was like, wow, like they're my new favorite band, Dikembe. And so I've just been immersing myself in Dikembe, and without them knowing it, I've been showing other people like, hey, you gotta check out Dikembe. And they're just college kids, and if I'd have gone up to them and said, hey, I really like your music, they probably would have said, go away, like stop talking to me, creepy person. But you know, I don't know. Maybe I'm playing up the creepiness too much, no? I don't know.
It's not creepy.
I don't know, you know.
I think it's cool, actually.
It's a play for sympathy, folks.
It is.
This is really
Someone's
something
supposed to say you're not creepy.
This is something that this is like an old preacher trick. I don't know if I can, you know, you do that whole preamble. It's a well-worn trope, but you're supposed to respond. There's supposed to be a response from the crowd when he does that. So next time he does it, I'm expecting a no. I mean, just this. We'll heal collectively the next time this comes up. So James, let's talk about. You have 3 acts currently signed.
Yep.
A group, and hopefully I get the pronunciation of the first group. Hey Monia.
It's Hey Monet.
Hey Monet. Okay, so I said it phonetically, and it's wrong. In lowercase, a group called Flashlights.
Yep.
And Roscoe Bandana, which James had previously mentioned. The one thing, me looking at the 3 groups, looking at their video and listening to them, they all sound like they are really, you've already used the word visceral, but visceral live acts. Is this sort of the cornerstone of your choices?
You know, I mean, in hindsight, we look kind of like geniuses with Roscoe Bandana, because when we landed on them as our initial act, kind of the Mumford & Sons Lumineers boom had not quite happened. And they're a country Americana act. But really, why we landed on them was they were part of we have a yearly Battle of the Bands program called Hard Rock Rising, and it's across the globe. And they didn't win. They came in 4th place, I think. And we met them, and they were just humble, good kids from Mississippi, had never left Mississippi. And we were all kind of racking our brains, like, how can we help them? And then it kind of dawned on us. This was kind of in the offing, Hard Rock Records, like, let's get them. Because nobody thinks, there's not a person in this room who thinks hard rock goes, oh man, country, Toby Keith, you know, or Taylor Swift or whatever. You know, like, nobody thinks that. So we thought, let's go out of left field and let's see what people think, you know? I mean, if we're gonna do this label, we're gonna take our lumps with it. And I've gotten beat up in my fair share of interviews. So let's go with a band that's galvanized behind what we're doing and people that, you know, we believe in what they're doing musically. Flashlights, they're actually from Titusville and
Florida, folks.
Yeah, the Cape Canaveral. They had the fortune or misfortune, I think it's a fortune of I went and saw a band at back booth called Basements of Florida, a local band, and Flashlights opened up, and they refused to get on the stage. They just played on the floor, right? And had a girl drummer, and the singer Terry is probably, I mean, he reminds me of Green Day, you know, just like when I was a teenager. He just has he's like 87 pounds and 5'3", giant chipped tooth, and the microphone's smashing into him, and kids are jumping around, and I was like, you know, like, holy cow, like if I were 15, that kid would be my idol, and I would have the biggest crush on the girl, like, because it was just this cool energy. And they're a punk band, you know. I mean, if you like Superchunk, Archers of Loaf, stuff like that. Again, maybe not what you immediately think about with hard rock. They kind of spoke to me, and the first concert I ever went to was this band Fugazi, like this DC hardcore band, and that was what I grew up on. And now Ian Mackay would slap me in the face for being this in front of you, but Flashlights was just like, all right, this is cool. And then Hey Monet, you know, they were very, you know, kind of middle of the road. They write great pop songs, and, you know, we wanted to go there and talk to them. And there's actually a student here at the school from Atlanta, and I don't know if you're in the room. Sakari, are you here? No? There's this guy, Sakari, and he's freshman here, and amazing hip hop. I mean, said from me, I mean, it reminds me of Tribe Called Quest, De La Soul, like that era of kind of what I was into. And heard him, literally was getting a test pressing from one of the band's CDs, and somebody was listening to him in the office, and I was like, oh, who's this? Because it was basically a mixtape, and he was rapping over a Childish Gambino track. And I was like, yeah, he's really good. And he, you know, he goes here, and I keep in touch with him. You know, that's somebody that, you know, we'd love to work with moving forward. And it's not to try to like have 19 different genres, which makes our PR person's job a nightmare. But it's really about, you know, kind of showing the breadth of what hard rock is. It's not hard rock. It's not, you know, one style of music. We're music for all, and, you know, we want to give back to all.
I think it's interesting. I think it's very interesting. By a show of hands, how many of you are making your own music? Pretty awesome.
Yeah. So there's hopefully a lot more corporations have 9 to 3 acts that they're going to sign to their labels, because we got to get some people signed out of the school, and maybe that's how it'll work. Let's talk a little bit, and this question I think will be a good question for both Donna and for James. When you first speak with these artists, and it sounds like, James, you kind of are sort of professionally stalking artists for a long time before you're...
I've let a lot of people sleep in my house, yeah. I started off as just like a fanboy, would take weird pictures at night. No, the second part, not true, maybe.
What am I doing here?
All right, I was halfway through that question. Let's see what that question was.
You got to have fun, too, I can tell you that.
So when you finally talk to these acts, or Donna, when you're consulting people that want to make a step and get signed, you know, what would be the most important aspect of what they need to do before they start talking to somebody and sign a contract? What are the things that they most commonly have not done on that checklist?
What I have seen over and over and over again of emerging artists, and even some artists that have made the tip over, is they come with material that's incomplete. Don't do that, please. You get a chance here to come in and show your stuff. It's like performing. Think of it performing on the stage. If you're going to get out there and perform, be on your game and give it everything that you have. Research. Look at what the companies have been working with and what their branding is, and understand what are they trying to do. Try to find a connection there. Try to find somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody. When you have some type of connective presence with anybody that's in any of the business that's connected to it, you have a little more edge in the door to come. You're already having an edge because you're at Full Sail and getting this real world education, but to connect to the business. But please be prepared. Presentation is everything. Know who you're talking to, know what the subject is, know how you're going to make your presentation. Have something to connect to it that connects to what they're doing. And I think that's where people really fall down. They just kind of saunter in and go, here I am. Here I am. Well, that's nice, but who are you? And what are you doing? And what do you want to do with it? And show the passion and understanding that you have of the industry and how you want to get to where you want to get to.
And as a follow-up to your point, like in a job interview, should you have researched and know who you are, specifically who you're talking to, and is it appropriate for potentially an artist to do business with these folks? Is it? I mean, should the artist also ask some questions of the
Sure.
of their contact at the corporation?
Questions to me, I don't think you can ever ask enough questions. I love asking questions. If you don't ask, you don't get. I mean, that's just been my mantra all the years. But also, creative, innovative things, like if you're playing or your band is playing or your band that you're managing is playing, send them an invitation to come out to it. You know, kind of cover all the bases the best that you can. But you're never going to get anything if you don't go for it or if you don't ask for it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, and this isn't about bands or music artists, but I think it's, you know, there's passion, determination, and talent. And if you're waiting for Red Bull Records to sign you or Hard Rock or Atlantic, then you're not really in it for the right reasons. And I can rattle off a couple people, but, you know, there's a band that Matt probably is very well versed in, probably played, you know, Orlando 20 times before anything happened for him, but Death Cab for Cutie. They were on Barstook Records, and they were playing in front of 10 people, and they came back the next time through 6 months later and 20 people, and now they'll come and they'll sell at Hard Rock Live. And, you know, that wasn't because the singer, Ben Gibbard, said, hey, I want to get signed to Atlantic Records and make $1 million. He just said, I believe in myself, I believe in what I'm doing musically, and I'm gonna get it out to people, and I'm gonna make this a choice, a, you know, conscious choice of, you know, I care about what I'm doing. And I mean, that's, you can think of 100 artists. I mean, for every person that gets discovered by Timbaland, or, you know, for every Bruno Mars that, you know, is a songwriter who they say, hey, we're gonna thrust you in, you know, there's tons of others. I mean, you look at the band Fun, you know, that's a band that when they were the Format, I let sleep on my floor. And they weren't doing so great, you know, and when Format broke up, you know, the singer, he reformed and got a couple other indie supergroup to form Fun, and, you know, everybody knows the song We Are Young now. Oh, they're rich and famous. I mean, that guy's 32, and he was neither rich nor famous from when he decided to be a band from 17 to 30, right? And Fun had an album that came out before it, and it didn't take off. You know, it was on network, and there was no Fueled by Ramen or Atlantic putting it out, and he just kept plowing away. He believed in himself, and, you know, I actually saw an interview with him, and the interviewer said to the singer, you know, how did you know We Are Young was a hit song? And he said, you know, I'm a narcissist, so I've written 50 or 100 hit songs, just nobody heard them, right? He's like, somehow the right team got behind this and everybody heard it, but he never stopped believing in himself. I mean, you know, when you're playing the Social, you're a touring band out of town, even if you're selling it out, right? And you guys are all paying $15, $17, they're not leaving the Social just like with money coming out of all their pockets. You know, they're getting in a touring van for 10 people and driving to a Holiday Inn, and everybody's crashing on 2 beds, and, you know, they're like that. They're making a go of it, and, you know, the people that make it are the people that are determined to make it. And I think, you know, even in the hip hop realm, I mean, if you look at Jay-Z, I mean, Jay-Z came from nothing, and now he's taking over sports, you know, agency entertainment and representing all these artists. Not because he had some grand plan 30 years ago, because he's determined to make it in what he's doing, and he makes it.
That is so the way. I mean, even in looking at a lot of the Beatles footage and from when they very first got together and they met each other in school, and, you know, just were sleeping in their cars and playing little clubs that were out of the way. It wasn't even safe for them to go to some of the clubs that they were playing in, but their heart was about music. They wanted to play the music. I don't think they, quite frankly, cared if they got discovered or anything. They just wanted to play music. After you're not eating for a few days and can't pay the rent and don't have gas to drive the van to the next gig, you begin to care about getting signed or getting, you know, gigs to play more, so you can. It is a business. No matter how it's a passionate, incredible force. When that music can change life, it can heal people, it can do so many things, and you're that artist that has that message. And it's so interesting, you know, so many people talk about all of these overnight sensations, but a lot of these overnight sensations, I would say more so than not, have been playing music for 10, 15, 20 years, and boom, it hits, that tip over occurs. But the goal has always been to play the music, to be true to your roots and to the music.
Once you get booked, and I think it's kind of relevant to bring that point up, because once a band is developing and you're going out to see these bands as they're developing, what's important for these bands to do before they play, after they play, in regards to the audience?
Well, I mean, you know, social media has just made it infinitely easier to stay connected, or at least attempt to speak to your fans. But, you know, successful bands, I've found, or just successful entities in life, there's always going to be the artist. There's a person who's just like an amazing guitarist who just wants to be an amazing guitarist and shows up for sound check and does that. But there's always going to be a business type person in the band that drives them, that says, we should be doing this, let's do this. And, that kind of rubs off. And if you stay connected with your fans, there's tons of bands out there that, obviously Taylor Swift would not be Taylor Swift if she didn't have, what are they called? Like the Swifters? Or something? Oh, that's a mop. That's a broom. That was a bad joke. But no, like somebody like Fall Out Boy, they've kind of reformed now and resurged, but they were at the beginning of that little surge of like, let's get out there, let's tweet. And Pete Wentz tweeted a little too much about himself one time, but like they're out there and they're talking, they're engaging, they're letting people know, hey, we're just a human being. And my job at Hard Rock, I'm fortunate enough to meet people that are, different levels of acclaim for various reasons. And kind of the one prevailing thing about all of them is that, they're just human beings, and they just want to talk about, did the Magic win? Can you believe Kaepernick threw that pass into the back of the end zone against Richard Sherman? Like, why would he do that? It was a sad day for me. I have no idea why I did that. I don't know.
And why would the Red Hot Chili Peppers play with Bruno Mars at the Super Bowl? Please. Who put that group together? But it was cool.
It was a good pairing. So, I don't know, Matt. That was a truncated answer there for you.
Okay, we went from the longer answer to short answer. Okay, so I guess there's a question for you. How many people are tracking how music is delivered in sales? Not necessarily in streaming, because that doesn't really feel like sales. You're just streaming. Who's tracking this? Who has the numbers from last year? I have them, but I'd rather kind of kick this out there. Who has the numbers by format from last year, roughly? What's the biggest selling format out there for music? iTunes actually went down over 5% last year. This is their first year they've gone down, and they also that is not the biggest format. Yes, sir. I saw your hand. Well, that's streaming, and that's a little bit different. You're basically paying for a service in streaming. Yes, sir. Yeah, in 12, CDs were staying steady. They dropped a little bit in 13, but it's still the biggest format, which might shock you because, by a show of hands, who bought a CD last year in this room? Wow. Knocked out. I didn't expect it to be that large a number. I expected people on this panel, to raise their hand. Not necessarily as many of you folks out there to raise your hand, because I think that one thing I haven't addressed is format. And how important is matching a format to the artists as far as Hard Rock Records goes? Have you?
We initially started as digital distribution only, just knowing kind of that was where things were going, and we provided physical CDs for sale. But really, we try to cater to what the artist is after, and by that I mean, flashlights. If you go to a Roscoe Bandana show, they're the country kind of Americana group. I think a CD, if you kind of just gauge their fan base, is a preferred form of, transaction. People want a CD, they want, hold the CD. If you went to a flashlight show, I would tell you probably the bulk of their fans would love a 7-inch, with swirl vinyl. And so that's the route we're going with them. They have a little EP that they went out on the road with, but they're going to have vinyl. They're going to go straight with vinyl. They're going to have digital. Because that speaks to their aesthetic. And I think that's important too, is that, as an artist, you need to kind of just be self-aware of what you're going for and what you want to be, and then present yourself as that. Because trying to conform yourself into one kind of box or another, you're just stunting your creativity and where you can let yourself go.
I think that's such a good point, and we see that a lot in the industry, that artists will look at other artists that are succeeding, and maybe it's not their genre or it's not their mission, but they see that success out there, so they come back and regroup and try to format themselves to the success. And when it's contrived and put together without that real truth and honesty of who you are and what you are as an artist, it doesn't seem to have worked very often.
Yeah.
Once in a while maybe, but it just doesn't seem to work.
A great example is Imagine Dragons. They got turned down by like 4 or 5 labels. And I mean, who before them took a giant 6-foot drum and started banging it on stage, right? Now Bastile's out there with it. Now there's Givers that are, kind of doing the same thing. And I'm not saying anybody's copying off anybody, but, Imagine Dragons, I'm pretty sure, I've never met them, but, they probably were pulled aside at some point and saying, hey, maybe if you lose the giant just drum up front, you might be more accessible to fans. And I'm sure they said, no, this is our thing. This is what we're doing. Like this, we feel really good about this music. And, much like the guys in Fun, they needed somebody to hear the hit song, and they heard it. And now you're going to start seeing drums pop up everywhere. Everybody's going to have a giant drum. That's the big prediction, bold prediction. It's true. If you look at Mumford & Sons, nobody was doing American folk when Mumford & Sons did it. And they did it, and it took off, and then what'd you see? Everybody popping up out of the woodwork. Everybody was an American folk act, whether it was a Monsters of Men from Sweden, Finland, where are they from? Mm-hmm. Lumineers from Denver,
yeah.
Right? Everybody kind of did it because that path had been blazed, and they were able to follow it. And again, that's not taking away anything from the subsequent artist. It's just Mumford & Sons, to your point about the Beatles, I'm sure when they got together in the room and they're writing Little Lion Man and it's got the F word in it, they're not sitting there going, man, I can't wait until we're playing arenas. This is going to be big. Let's just get rid of the 401k, quit our jobs. This is going to make us millions of dollars. They just did it because they love the music, and then people caught on to it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was at a entertainment conference in New York, and the keynote speaker was Gene Simmons from KISS, he's still going strong. I mean, they are a media blitz and do so many things. But so in the Q&A, which there's 400 people in the room, and he goes, okay, now you can ask me all the questions you want to ask me, and nobody's raising their hand. Everybody is dying to ask a question. No one's raising their hand. I love asking questions. So I said, how did the name KISS get their name? How'd you come up with that name? He said, well, I wanted to call the band something else that starts with F. He said, but my partners all said, you think they're going to print it in the media? They're going to play it on the radio? And now, folks, we have the big band. And one of the guys reached over and kissed him on the cheek, and he goes, we're going to call it KISS. I mean, no big revelation here, no big marketing survey or study. We're just going to call it KISS. And boom, there it is. And they're still going and have many multi-levels of branding and corporate sponsors and music and movies and all kinds of stuff. Racing, big into the racing industry.
A coffin.
A coffin. He does.
Lifetime KISS fans can get an official KISS coffin and go to the final place with their favorite band. Yeah, they've done it quite literally from cradle to grave.
From beginning to end, you see.
From onesies to coffins, probably. I mean, that is literal cradle to grave marketing.
Okay, moving right along.
Let's go with some questions. Where is our microphone? And who has questions? My gosh.
Hello, I'm Jake, and I'm in film. And my question is, well, right now I'm developing web series. We start writing the pilot for next week, and I was wondering, like, how best I could attract sponsors to the web series by like showing them the pilot.
Just keep asking. Just keep asking and trying to connect with people that are doing that. But just keep asking. Never stop asking. And how quickly? Till someone says yes. There is no magic formula there. So.
And I think it's not, in my role, I get a lot of like cold calls and cold emails. The most professionally put together, like even if it's like a 3-page deck that says, and by deck it's just like, here's my idea, here's why it's a good idea, here's why you should think it's a good idea. Very simple for me to process. That I like, rather than like an email that's 12 paragraphs long with a link, go check it, because it's just kind of white noise there. I mean, if it's something that's put together well, then you can look at it, because, a lot of us maybe up here aren't the ultimate decision makers. And so I've got to believe in the idea, and then I've got to go tell somebody, hey, this is a really great idea. And if I don't have a way to do that, I'm not going to take the time, take my own time to make your idea sound like a great idea to somebody else.
And I have a follow-up question that relates to what you're looking to do. With a web series, do you publish even a preview it or a portion of it publicly, or do you publish it privately for stream before you're trying to get the web series sponsorship or up on someone else's platform?
I mean, I would go public because that shows, you know, if you can garner the interest without, you know, then people are going to come to you, right? Then, you know, I mean, like, so, I mean, that's how so many YouTube channels have kind of spawned and people have turned it into a career, you know, that's how they're making money. If you go private with it, I mean, to me, it's your art, you want to share it, right? So you're not making it so you can see it on your computer. You're making it so people can see it and enjoy it. So if people see it and enjoy it and they enjoy it enough, then those opportunities are going to start coming to you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Jason Kent. I'm in the Recording Arts Bachelor's, and then I'll be finishing up here at Full Sail next year with an entertainment business degree. My question's more focused on the business side of it. With a little intuition and some little nuances that I'm noticing, studios are eventually going to get swallowed up by the big guys or maybe transform into more promoting and marketing. So where does the leading independent label fit into that as far as, do you think it's going to be product and brand development, or do you think they'll be able to do that side and as well as just, excuse me, discovering new artists?
I mean, I would somewhat contradict that because I don't know that. I mean, I see where you're going. I mean, you know, Fueled by Ramen started in John Janik's dorm room in Gainesville in 1996, right? And their first release was a pie tin of 7 inches. And the way they A&R'd was the drummer for Less Than Jake, Vinny, would tour around the country, and he'd be like, "This is a great band. We should sign them. We should sign them." And you know, it kind of, they got lightning in a bottle. Atlantic bought them out, and they're kind of under the enclave at Atlantic. But the point of that story is there's going to be a million John Janiks, and there's going to be people that say, "Hey, we want to put this music out." And you know, you look at like a Barsuk, you look at Kill Rock Stars, you look at Mom and Pop, you look at French Kiss. You look at those labels out there who have just kind of stayed the course and said, "This is what we're doing," and you know, it's again, I think they're in it for the same passionate reasons as, you know, the artists. You know, they're not in it so that they can get upstream by Interscope and lose or make a lot of money. I mean, if that were the case, you know, Fat Records, No Effects, at the height of their heyday, I bet you Fat Mike could have sold that label for millions and millions of dollars, right? Just for the back catalog alone. But that wasn't what he was about. He was about, you know, making, you know, what was it, Punk and Drublic, and going out on Warped Tour and, you know, playing and being true to the kind of the punk ethos. So I think, you know, I just think there's always going to be those pioneers, you know, that, or not even pioneers, or just people that want to go at their own. And that's going to give young artists a chance to go out there. I mean, flashlights, there's an entity here in Orlando called North Korea. And North Korea was turned on to flashlights long before I ever heard them. They put their first release out on a cassette tape, which is definitely not a money-making proposition. But, you know, like that was somebody who said, "Hey, I got a cassette tape label. I love your stuff. I want to get it out there. Let's get your music out there." And, you know, in a winding road, that found its way to me to try to help them maybe do something to the next level. And, you know, my goal with them is to have that find its way to Atlantic and have them do something to another level.
And just to reiterate about, you know, we think the big corporations are swallowing up all kinds of things, but we see new products being, you know, invented all the time. We see these young entrepreneurs. The entrepreneurial spirit is alive and well, and I think it always will be. I don't think it will ever go away. I mean, through the years of entertainment, you know, when MTV came, when the movies came, when the VCRs came, when the videos came, when all the, you know, the movie business is going to die. No one's going out to the movie theater. You're going to be able to live stream the concert right on your phone. Nobody's going to go out to live music. It will never stop, never, because everybody wants to have that experience. And the same with, there's millions of people today in that garage or apartment or wherever it is that are tinkering around with the next really big idea, or sitting out in their car in the parking lot at Full Sail going, "We're going to do this. We are going to make this happen." So keep going.
Yeah, Jason, I'm going to connect your initial point with the point up here. I'm going to heal us all based on what was said. I think that there are indie entities for whatever reason. Maybe you know, Fat Mike's too old to and just wants to have kids and live in the country or something. And he might sell out someday. But nature abhors a vacuum, right? There's going to be, as Donna mentioned, the next person is just going to fill that spot. So is a spot, if the spot becomes evacuated by one entity, I think that just becomes filled in by the next new thing. The person who has the hottest idea in the most clever little marketing scheme just fills it in and just takes the place. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jessica. I graduated with entertainment business, and I'm currently in the new media journalism for my master's. And my question is coming from somebody who wants to help artists succeed. And I've wondered if it's to get the attention of labels or either people to work with labels, is marketability more important than talent? Like, how do you catch someone's attention if they're talented but they're not marketing themselves, or vice versa?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, and I think there needs to be, again, I mean, like, they need to find their own way they want to market themselves, and by that I mean, like, I'll use flashlights as an example, and who knows if they're watching, but flashlights are probably the most anti-establishment group of musicians I've ever met, right? And so when you see them, just kind of, they give off this vibe of indifference. That's just their outward facing. When you speak to them, great, engaging people, wonderful to talk to. But what I kind of latched onto in the beginning, and just in meeting them, was, when I see them up on stage and they're playing, it's as if they just don't care, right? And that's their not their shtick, but that's their vibe they're giving off naturally. Play that up, have that be your thing. It doesn't mean when somebody comes to the merch table and said, "Hey, great show," you just brush them off. You still engage with them, but when you're up there, you're giving off that certain vibe. And to go back to Ben Gibbard, I mean, he's lost a lot of weight now, but he was a little more robust when he started the show, and he was when we started the band, and he's sitting up there singing love songs for girls, right? And I think nobody probably, until he got to Atlantic, nobody probably ever gave him marketing advice. He was just himself, and he was able to interact with people and make that connection point because he was himself. And so I think that naturally evolved into their marketability, and that was kind of what they were. He was seen as a poet on stage. He wrote these amazing lyrics. And somebody like Mumford & Sons, I mean, they're up there in ragtag clothes and vests, and they look the way they look, but when you see them live, right, they're interacting with the fans, and it's a very genuine experience, and they're seen as these likable, affable, kids from England. And that's their thing, to the nth degree. They've kind of taken the whole Americana feel and made it their own. And I mean, you could even go the complete opposite, and you say Marilyn Manson, you see him play. There's no way to market Marilyn Manson other than to say he hates everything, he's a vampire, he can't do interviews during daylight, right? Because if you go against that, then what's he up there, what's he stand for, right? So you've got to stand for something, but it's got to be true to who you are. And I think that is somebody's marketability.
Thanks, Jessica. I'm going to mention something based on this. There was kind of an Americana folk band that was pretty hot a handful of years ago here, and they play very antique instruments, and they don't plug any. If you're into a recording arts student or show production student or know music, there's no direct inputs on anything. So they have a stage full of old instruments, a pump organ. The instruments are ancient, and it's a very difficult stage to do sound on, and they come out and play, and it's very hushed, beautiful acoustic music. The best swag I've ever seen sold off a table was they had a music box. You know what a music box is, the old-timey, like a wood box, and you open it, and it's wound up, and there's a little metal spindle in there that spins, and there's tines that go by and hit these little pegs on this little thing it's spinning around, and it chimes, it plays a tune, and usually it's Rockabye Baby, and you give it to a baby, and when they're young, and ding, 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 and you have Rockabye Baby melody playing on this little metal tines. It's this gorgeous thing, and it's centuries old. I mean, these have been around for centuries. They went and had their most famous song programmed onto these metal spools. So you could buy an old-timey music box from this current band, wind it up, and it would play their most popular song on it. And it's like, that's just such a great marketing idea for that specific band. Now, would it work with the artist on your label? Maybe, maybe not. But they just found the thing. I mean, so playing to Jessica's point is I think, in the point on the panel as well, is just have to know who the act is. And like, what's the thing? What's the craziest, coolest thing that you can think of for that specific act? And the very next act over, maybe not.
But that is the whole point. We don't know until we do it. And it's all about putting it out there, doing it, feeling that passion for who you are and what you are. And you can look at any artist in the history of the entertainment business, and sometimes they start out as one thing and it becomes another thing. But just like us, our interests change, our focus changes, we're exposed to more things, we learn more things, we see more things, and our taste changes. It's like, you know, having a magnificent meal, listening to magnificent music. One day it's this, and then all of a sudden you discover one of these new bands, and you go, oh my God, it's like breathing life into my soul. And then telling that story of what is relevant to that artist. It just, that's never going to change, in my opinion. Just keep doing that.
Yes, sir.
Hello, my name's Eric Moffitt. I'm in the show production Bachelor of Science degree program. I'm a musician, and I'm starting a small business in graphic design as well. And basically the questions I have is, when your company sees a band or a product taking off, and that they might have longevity in this business past the expiration of your dealings with them, what necessary steps are you going to take that you're willing to share to ensure the more likeliness of the longevity of that person's band or product?
Meaning like the longevity of them and they're being tethered to hard rock, or just their longevity?
How are
separate?
you going to help them transition, basically? Yeah,
that's a great question as well. So Roscoe Bandana is really our first leaving the nest type band, and we're experiencing that now. You know, what we've done, what we kind of did as we got into the waning stages of, you know, kind of their contractual time with us was, you know, we started seeking out management opportunities, showcase opportunities for them, label showcase opportunities, and then really setting them on course to maintain what they were doing for the next 12 months, so that it wasn't just a dream that, you know, was quickly born and quickly died. But I mean, they were a unique case because they had a lot of their own momentum. You know, they went on tour with Fun. They had Mumford & Sons said, oh, we like what you're doing, come play Telluride. So they had a lot of opportunities that came about because of their relationship with hard rock, but also just because they're really good. And not everybody's going to be that. You know, I mean, when you talk about Red Bull Records and there's 9 bands on the label, everybody knows AWOL Nation. I mean, if anybody can name one of the other 8, I'll give you a big hug in the hallway. But, you know, I mean, there's 8 other acts that are out there, you know, plowing away that maybe don't have, you know, AWOL Nation's career trajectory. So not to offer a cop-out, I mean, that's something we're feeling out. It's a feeling out process for us. You know, we will always be in their corner and pushing them and giving them opportunities from us, whether, you know, we're having a grand opening somewhere we want them to play, or we're doing a Lollapalooza after party, come play that. You know, the right people are going to be there to keep, you know, their dream alive. But at some point, you know, things are going to take root or they're not. And so I guess that's, you know, the long and the short.
Yeah, at the end of the day, that is the long and the short. Either it's going to continue to work, or the 2 parties will come together and say, it's been a great ride, and, you know, good luck to you. Mm-hmm. So you do all those things. You do everything that you know what to do, and at some point in time, it either continues to grow and evolve and change together, or you shake hands and walk away.
Yeah, and I mean, this is kind of like, to James's point, maybe these bands, maybe you're friends, and maybe when they tour the size shed that's hard rock size, then they choose hard rock, and everybody's still friends and doing business. And kind of like Frank Sinatra and the Sands Hotel in Vegas. Like, why did this huge international pop star play, you know, a room in a Vegas hotel? because of a previous friendship that went back to North Bergen County, New Jersey, you know, when Sinatra needed to get out of his Tommy Dorsey contract. So, you know, you're not making mob deals, but you're making friendship deals, and hopefully these relationships extend further into the artist's career.
It's 100% a friendship deal. I mean, there's nothing that says you've got to like hard rock after. It's more of, if I'm doing my job and Hard Rock's doing, you know, the job as a brand to support them and give them a chance, then we hope that, you know, 10 years in the future, it's like, oh, it's great Hard Rock. Because that's how Hard Rock started, you know. Like I said, Clapton and Townsend, they came because they had a relationship with just the two individual owners in one entity. And that spread, you know, across multiple acts. And this is really just taking it a few steps, you know, backwards. You know, you're not getting Eric Clapton and Cream or Pete Townsend and The Who. You're getting, you know, Jason Stanford and Roscoe Bandana. But you're hoping that you can help them get to the point where they are, you know, an Eric Clapton level. I mean, it'd be great if a guitar we helped them acquire to record their songs somehow ended up on our walls and it meant something. Like you walked in and you're like, holy cow, they got Jason Stanford's guitar from Roscoe. How'd that happen? You know, like we'd love to be part of that process. So that's what we're doing.
It's been interesting. I have a long history with Hard Rock and the development of their brand and their venues. And the motto of Hard Rock, love all, serve all. And it really does apply to every single thing that is incorporated around what they do. And it's been successful.
Hello, my name is Kaylin Castle, and I'm an entertainment business bachelor degree program. In reference to artists, when it comes to the presentation, what do you feel that most of them lack?
Preparation, exposure, getting out there and keep doing it and doing it and doing it. You know, just working that show and, you know, building relationships with other people involved in the industry. But I just have always found it's either a hobby or it's your life. So if it's your life, you gotta live it, you gotta own it, and you gotta be it and do it. If it's your hobby, then it's going to be your hobby.
Yeah, I mean, I that's 1,000%. I mean, I think it goes across anything. I mean, Michael Jordan was Michael Jordan because he was in the gym. I mean, he had God-given talent, but he worked really, really, really hard to get where he is. You know, LeBron James was the most successful high school to pros, you know, basketball player ever because he has freakish athletic ability and is really tall and big, but also because he works harder than everybody on his team. And so I think if you just work hard at something, you know, practice does make perfect, you know, and you know, you need to prepare to, you know, achieve the goal that you want.
Thank you. Pretty simple answer, but my gosh, it's an answer that always seems to show up on every single panel at Hall of Fame.
It does.
Hi, I'm John. I'm 19 years old. I heard you say something about Fugazi earlier, and like how he would punch you in the face if he like saw what you're listening to now. That's kind of the thing I'm facing now, because a lot of the music I listen to is like 90s, 95 kind of music, like Trent Reznor, Queens of the Stone Age, Tool. Like, I mean, I've basically been told I have the music taste of a 30-year-old white man, which...
So we have a lot in common.
Yeah. So my question is, with my music taste and with the music that I make, I know it's not hot right now. Like, things are a lot newer now. Do you think there's actually a demographic out there for me, and there's actually a way for me to like stay true to that type of music while keeping it fresh?
Yeah, I mean, music's super, super cyclical. I mean, it's just like everything comes in cycles, and there's always going to be, you know, I mean, we were talking in the green room, Matt and I, about what people's perception of hard rock is, and we've done some qualitative testing with it, and you know, like I can tell you, a lot of people think hard rock 80s, right? And they come in and it's a jarring experience for them if it's not 80s centric. And you know, you're talking about the music we share. You know, the band Flashlights does not play music that's on the radio today. It does not play music that has a big fan base today. They play music that when I was going into high school, I thought was really cool. And I think, you know, honestly, that makes you very genuine that that's what you like, that's what you're doing. You're not trying to go with the hottest trends, because the minute you try to go with the hottest trend, it's going to die out. And maybe, you know, maybe it doesn't. Maybe you catch the wave and you're, you know, I'm trying to think of you know, maybe you're vitamin C, right? And you think that's, anybody remember vitamin C? Right. Maybe you're vitamin C and you get that one hit song and you make your money and you put it in your back pocket. And where's vitamin C today, right? You know, and maybe when we were pushing out the latest round of boy bands, and it was Backstreet Boys and NSYNC, you know, there was O-Town, there was whatever. There was people that came in after, and you know, again, I bet if you poll everybody in O-Town, not one of them said, you know what my dream was? Get in really good shape, eat a lot of vegetables, dance around, and sing about how I like girls, right? That was not the musician they wanted to be, because it wasn't true to them, and that's why they're not still there. I think somebody like Justin Timberlake, you know, what he's doing, that's what he's always wanted to do, and he's always wanted to be a showman and a performer, and that's why when all those guys kind of died out, you know, his star shined. So I think for you, it doesn't matter if you're into Trent Reznor or Queens of the Stone Age or whatever. I mean, Queens of the Stone Age just played Hard Rock 2 weekends ago and it was sold out. So I mean, there's obviously fan base there for it, and if that's what you're into, then just stay into it. I mean, like, you know, I still listen to ska punk. I like a lot of Less Than Jake. I go to their shows, they're shooting the toilet paper thing out, and the only person in there that's older than me are the people in the band. Like, everybody else is 14, and like their parents drop them off, and they're waiting to see where my kid is, and I'm like, I made different life decisions than you, I'm sorry. That's all.
But by the way, to answer the question about where vitamin C is,
where is she?
Vitamin C is water soluble, and you know how quickly that moves through the system. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Manny. I'm in the film program, and I want to know how you guys work and support independent filmmakers, and how the filmmakers can work together or merge with the music industry.
A good question. You just have to keep watching it and feeling it and getting involved with it, and it's going to come around.
Do you start with film festivals? The kind of local level film festival and build up from that?
Well, you can go public with it and put it out there and let people start looking at it, or little trailers of that. You know, getting involved with the local festivals, and then hopefully you get picked up by a bigger festival. And there's lots of different kind of festivals too. It's by genre, and it's by so many different levels. So.
Well, you know, it goes back to, hearing an act while he's in getting some copies made of music. And
I can give you, a real life example. You know, again, the band Flashlights, their friend, this guy, Stephen Marsh is his name. He did a video for them of just a song they had called Choking. It involves zombies eating male nether regions. So not the most highbrow video ever, but did the video, and it helped get them, kind of sold to us, like, hey, they're doing stuff, they're self-motivated, they have a vision that involves zombies. But, we brought him in and did 2 videos with them as a band, and, he got the reins. He did both videos. One you can find on YouTube. It's a Pokemon theme. It's a Japanese theme show. Another one, literally, I was at his house, filmed it in his house, went and bought plywood, put it up, different wallpaper behind each one, and then he filmed it in double time and then half time, and then kind of put it all together, and we played the song. And it came out really cool. It's just drippy, kind of like shoegazy. I'm definitely eating brownies of a certain variety type of song you would listen to, and that's the visual you get. And for him, I think now he's got 3 videos he can package up, and he can go the band route. He can go make, turn it into a short film. He has examples. So I would just, every artist wants a video made. Like, every artist, they still think that's the way to go. You got to get a video. So there's tons of artists in town. Just start going to shows, poking around and making friends in that scene, and it definitely can't hurt.
Take your camera.
Take your camera.
Yeah.
Hello, my name's Kyle Harrell, and I run like a small label here. I've been building it for like a year, and there's so much talent down here. I'm just trying to get everyone together. But my question is, when you have a product that you can stand behind, you're confident in, how do you go about promoting it on a budget?
And you
that's
have
the
2 minutes
question
to
of the
answer.
ages. That's the question of the ages.
Well, I would say that depending on what your product does, it's no different than you expect to lose 6 months. Like, I think the thing is, if you start a new business, expect to not make money for 6 months, right? You just build it in 6 months.
At least.
It's the same with this. You need to set out a marketing calendar. So with our first band, Roscoe Bandana, a lot of learnings for me in terms of when do you want to sync something from an in-studio, like a video thing? When do you want to blast out that they're doing something? When do you want to go on Facebook? When do you want to do a CPM on Facebook? When are they going to play, and how are we going to augment when they're playing? So, social media is a great solvent to a lot of things, and it's just a great medium. But I think, if you're a band, there's still tried and true methods. If you're coming to town in Orlando and you go and do a Park Ave, CD showcase, more people are going to know about it than if you just post, "Hey, I'm coming to Orlando." So there's avenues into that. If you get on Rollins, College Station, they start spinning you. You do a call in there, people are going to find out about it. And there's people that get paid money to do that monthly. That go out and they're your press agent, or they're the radio plugger or video plugger. But if you're starting regionally, you can do that yourself. Same thing. Just going out, making relationships. The college people that are running RPK, PRK, PRK. They're not getting bought out for songs. They're passionate. They go to shows. They love music. They spin that music. Sandy that runs Park Ave CDs. He's probably been one of the biggest promoters of local music for the last 20 years in Orlando. And if you went in there with an idea, I was in a ton of terrible bands in all of high school and college. And I can say that now because when I was in the bands, I was like, man, I'm really good. I'm gonna make a lot of money. And I did not, or else I wouldn't be on this panel. But I was in terrible bands, and Sandy was the most supportive person probably in Orlando. Michael McCraney, who I think is going to be here in the afternoon, he gave
grown up in
my
it his
band
whole life.
Yeah. We were terrible. We were so bad. He gave us shows, at the Social, playing like at a real venue where there was an actual sound check, and I had a microphone in front of me. Just because we were out there giving out flyers, and we showed that we wanted it and we cared, and that was something we wanted to do. And those are friendships that I've kept through the years, and I think if you make the right connections and you show that you're passionate about it, then the people at PRK are going to say, hey, let's play this, and people are going to give you venues to play the shows. Because if you're doing a regional thing and you've got a label, your best outlet to sell something would be at a show. Like, you're going to sell things there, and then it kind of spreads like wildfire. Like, hey, I heard this amazing band. Oh, let me hear it. And then you need a resource from to buy it. So I think, online one, but Park Ave would be another.
Yeah. Well, he's saying it all, but it's true. And we talked about Mike McCraney, who gives young bands a chance. There's lots and lots of people out there that can help you. It's just you have to continue to search them out, go out, be out, and get connected to them. There's no big secret underground about this. It's just really about that hard work, staying involved, being involved, and getting connected to it.